Two tails, one head, Yung Yang. 2 heads, 1 tail, Yang Yin. It's like a sad robot. Three heads, old young. Three heads, old young. Two tails, one head, Young Yang. Two tails, one head, Young Yang. Bottom trigram of our primary hexagram will be read as solid, broken, solid. This is Li, fire and light. Li is fire and light, both inner and outer. As an inner light, she is consciousness at its most lucid and unclouded, holding things together in the mind, perceiving their differences and connections, and discerning the underlying patterns of relationship. And as well as vision, Li is the light that makes things visible, the power to cast light on things, spreading clarity and the awareness of order. Li is the middle daughter, living in the south, the region of midsummer and the burning sun. This one. The top or outer trigram of our primary hexagram will be read as solid, solid, solid. This is Qian heaven. Qian is suprahuman cosmic law. Enduring, he determines the nature and development of all things, from the movement of the stars to the cycle of the seasons, to causing each individual seed to grow into its own kind of plant. Heaven is creativity in its pure form, the force that drives change and what endures within it. He confronts us with truth and what it demands, both as the absolute law of nature and as the challenge of individual calling, experienced as an inner law. He is both the awareness of what to do and how to be, and also the power to act on it. Heaven is Father, found in the northwest, the realm between autumn and winter, when the buds set and seeds fall to earth. Qian heaven above leaf, fire, and light give us the primary hexagram of 13. Once our third and fourth lines transform from old yang to young yin, our bottom trigram will then be solid, broken, broken, and our top will be broken, solid, solid. So solid, broken, broken is Zen thunder. Thunder is shock, upheaval, and the spark of the new. In old Chinese belief, thunder slept in the earth over winter and erupted from it in spring, awakening living things into new growth. Thunder is our basic drive for renewal. He inspires initiative and decisive action. He is the stimulus that sets things in motion. He is the eldest son in the Trigram family, the first connection of heaven, potential, with earth, realization. Young makes itself known here, emerging into the field and beginning to grow. Thunder belongs to the east and to spring. And broken, solid, solid is Xun, wind, or wood. Xun is both wind and living plants, whatever penetrates, spreads, and grows, shaping itself to the space available or shaping that space to its own nature. She is responsive flexibility, sensitively improvising and adapting. Like the wind, she can always find a way through because she never creates any resistance, and so her influence is subtle and gradual, but far-reaching. In the family of Trigrams, Xun is the eldest daughter, gentle and submissive. She belongs to the southeast and to late spring and early summer. Xun, wind, or wood above Zen thunder give us the supporting hexagram of 42. We'll get the titles to our hexagrams from Lu I-ming's Taoist I Ching, which he wrote in 1796 as a Taoist adept. It's quite alchemical in nature. Hexagram 13, our primary hexagram. Sameness with people, mixing in with the ordinary world, concealing illumination, assimilating to others. And our supporting hexagram, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence, the direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. 42, increase, entering the Tao gradually, without either rushing or lagging, increasing the positive while decreasing the negative. will start by looking at the images Kibi has rendered for primary and supporting hexagrams. 13 sameness with people, Kibi calls fellowship. So these eyes in this wall. Something almost profound about it, in that it's like the things that separate us see through the separation, maybe, something like that. "13. Sameness with people or fellowship seeks knowledge, comrades, intellectual activity. Before the sun is high in the sky, it looks for wisdom and wise men who are clearly strong. In the case of the top line is their search in uninhabited land." And our supporting hexagram, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence the direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. 42, increase. Increase from top to bottom, moisturize, benefit. It increases activity and adaptability, reduces the upper part, and brings benefits to the lower part. The design depicts an ideogram, trees, and ideogram vines, wooden boat shape. Alrighty. Next, we'll look at Hilary Barrett's I Ching, Walking Your Path, Creating Your Future. 13, sameness with people. She calls people in harmony. When we approach the I Ching to consult the Oracle, the question we bring to it will always have the general context of how can I act in creative relation with the spirits or forces shaping this moment of time? What are the unique contributions? Where is the common ground? How will your life change if your group expands? Oracle, people in harmony in the wilds, creating success, fruitful to cross the great river. A noble one's constancy bears fruit. People create harmony with one another where they are of like mind and find common cause. They come out from the walls of their villages to forge alliances in the wild country. That is, they seek out common ground where they can meet, beyond the familiar boundaries that usually define the limits of people like us. This means radically expanding the whole idea of who we are. Such fellowship is usually created between people, but it can also take place within an individual. For instance, between inner selves or between apparently unrelated traditions and ways of knowing. There is harmony when these are brought together in inner conversation to create strong alliances. There is strength and energy in alliance. People in harmony can commit themselves further, take greater risks. They can cross the river and enter new territories. Once there is agreement, it's worthwhile to follow the vision tenaciously, with the constancy of a noble one. Image, heaven joins with fire, people in harmony. A noble one sorts the clans and differentiates between beings. Imagine the fire reaching up towards the night sky, joining with the stars to cast light on the many clans gathered around it. A noble one has the clarity of vision to see the shared nature all the groups have in common, and also what is shared only within each individual group, and how the distinctiveness comes from their clannish roots. Harmony between people will not come about by forcibly amalgamating the clans. To disarm their natural defensiveness, the noble one needs first to recognize and respect identities different from his own. Sequence. People in harmony follows from hexagram 12 blocked. Things cannot end with blockage, and so people in harmony follows. The exclusive, divisive mindset of us versus them must be replaced by a larger sense of fellowship. Human awareness lights up the world, perceiving and creating the possibilities for co-creation and overcoming the drift apart of hexagram 12, which she calls blocked. Pair. People in harmony forms a pair with hexagram 14, great possession. Great possession means crowds. People in harmony means connecting. There is power in groups and alliances, but the emphasis for now is on the human experience of harmony and connection rather than on what might emerge. And 42, our supporting hexagram, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence the direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. 42, increase. Key questions. What would you do if you knew you were blessed? What if there were no limits? What could change for the better? Oracle. Increasing, fruitful to have a direction to go, fruitful to cross the great river. The old Chinese character for increasing shows a pot filled to overflowing. It means blessing and superabundance, like the timely rain that brings a rich harvest. Increase simply flows, without limit. There is no need for restrictive frameworks to contain it, but only for tools to work with it. When you are blessed, it is good to respond with purpose and movement. Participating in the increase, pouring more in, you receive more in return. Let yourself imagine where you want to be and take the first steps that commit you to going there. This is how to keep the momentum. Image. Wind and thunder increasing. The noble one sees improvement, and so she changes. When there is excess, she corrects it. Wind and thunder are agents of change. Thunder is like the inner spark of initiative and will. Wind is a far-reaching influence in the world, free-moving because of its endless ability to shape itself to the terrain. So the noble one moves as decisively as thunder and with the versatility of the wind. She does not hold fast to a chosen direction, but responds to whatever opportunities for improvement she can see. Sequence. Increasing follows from hexagram 41, decreasing. Decreasing and not reaching an end must mean increasing. Decrease is the offering, emptying out the vessel. Increase is the blessing, the pot filled to overflowing. There is the willingness to have less and make things simpler, and the willingness to receive more and become richer. Each phase leads into the other, moving in a cycle. Next, we will read our changing lines 3 and 4, which put a pin in the map to say you are here, or at least here are some places you may find yourself. They take precedence over all other elements and are the most focused part of the reading. Changing line 3 has the general context, an emerging identity, facing a transition, with fear or desire, resolution or indecision. And changing line 4, the capacity for action, asking how the work can be done. These may have conflicting messages. If that's the case, we are just to look at that and see how it might apply in our own lives. Changing line 3 of hexagram 13, people in harmony. hiding away arms in the thickets, climbing your high mound for 3 years, not starting anything. In an atmosphere of suspicion and fear, the best you can do is to stow your resentment and your agenda well out of sight and take the higher ground. With a strategic overview, it becomes clear that you cannot achieve anything here by winning a fight, but only by creating harmony. Since no one can be forced to share your agenda, disengage from your inner or outer struggles and reconnect with your original intention. And changing line 4. Bestriding your city walls, no one is capable of attack. Good fortune. It's not easy to be in harmony with others if you feel constantly vulnerable. So the first step to peace is a robust boundary that protects the richness of your inner space. When you have this refuge that no one can possibly breach, there is no threat and no need for any hostilities. Good fences make good neighbors. Neighbors, is that what it is? Next, we'll look at Venabelle Wynn's I Ching The Oracle, an updated translation annotated with cultural and historical references, restoring the I Ching to its shamanic origins. Hexagram 13. Where are we at here? Tongren Fellowship, The Oracle. Now is a time for relationship building. Seek out a community of interest and seek interchange. Hold in common bond. Consider the relationships you build, both social and professional. Fellowship begins with giving, and that giving becomes exchange in its own natural course. Support the happiness of others, and others will support yours. Never let a friend walk alone at night. Generosity builds bridges and networks. To be enriched by fellowship, be one who enriches others. Help others with their aspirations first, and in time, you will find that you've accomplished your own. Heaven converges with fire, sovereignty, and sovereignty. Fellowship. The sage creates order and structure for the people. A collective is formed. Sign of the great sacrifice, auspicious, favorable for crossing the great stream. A favorable outcome prognosticated for the sage. A gathering in the field, the people gather and unite. Kindred spirits come together, fire illuminating heaven, radiance, innovation, and cultivation cling to the creative force, strength in creativity, expansive creativity. Fire ascends upward toward the sky, uniting with it, synthesis. Heaven and fire, together, they share universal interests and set aside private interests of the individual. Together, they pursue the goals of humanity, not the goals of one. With such unity, all difficulties and dangers can be overcome. For such a fellowship to form, there must be one enlightened leader who inspires and guides the fellowship with the leader's inner clarity and outer strength. The leader must know that a fellowship is not a mere intermingling of different individuals. Fellowship requires order and organization under the clarity, strength, and guidance of that one leader. The leader will set a specific mission with a vision that unites the community. Inspire with a call to action. Convey the urgency and timeliness for working in unity. And our supporting hexagram, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence, a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. Hexagram 42, Yi, or burgeoning, never known how to say that. The Oracle, a state of increase and expansion. Opportunities come knocking. As you gain, ensure that others gain. What you receive, you must give. That is the only way to ensure further increase and ascent. Time is of the essence in the matter. Your window of opportunity will not remain open for long. The time for increase and ascent is now. Accept the challenge. Rise to the occasion. Never lose your kindness. You know you are aligned with heaven's will when what you seek for yourself will in turn benefit the collective and achieve a greater good. Thunder incites a new development and wind disperses it, giving it momentum. A state of increase and expansion. The image of burgeoning is a vessel with water overflowing. A sage learns honor from the honorable and honor from the corrupt. Learn beneficence from the Learn beneficence from the beneficent and beneficence from the malicious. Here is the translation of this oft-quoted proverb. Chunsi yi jian shan zi qian yu gao zi gai. When sages see the good of others, they are inspired to be better, and when they see the fault of others, they correct that fault in themselves. Auspicious to cross the great stream. Heed those words, and the gods will bless you with ever-increasing and overflowing prosperity. Yi is a symbol for the prosperous and ever-continuing flow of growth, gains, benefits, profit, and affluence. Next, we'll look at the changing lines for our most focused part of the reading, which puts a pin in the map to say you are here, or at least here are some places you may find yourself, takes precedence over all other elements. Changing line 3 has the general context and emerging identity, facing a transition with fear or desire, resolution or indecision. And changing line 4, the capacity for action, asking how the work can be done. So hexagram 13, our primary hexagram, changing line 3. Concealed arms in the underbrush, ascending up a tall mound. For 3 years, no advancements or progress, no true coalition. You have 3 years to change, to undergo a full personal transformation so that when opposition and adversity really come, you'll be ready. Securing peace by preparing for war. Weapons were concealed in the thicket in preparation for an ambush or revolt. Nurture your personal secret weapon. Internal strife within the fellowship hinders them from uniting and launching a successful revolt. Oppositions within the fellowship and tensions among the leaders. Victorious warriors win first before they go to war. You cannot win first if there is such strife from within. Bring peace and accord to that internal strife. Sui, S-U-I, is a reference to Jupiter and the god Tai Tzu, who represents Jupiter's orbital cycle. 3 of this ideogram can also be interpreted as 3 cycles of crop harvests, thus 3 years. And changing line 4. Ascending a citadel wall, the wall is breached, but no conquest from the attack. Still, it is auspicious to proceed. The citadel wall is scaled and the fortress has been breached by the rebels, but they failed to take over the fortress. A small battle won, but prospective victory in the war is still a distant matter. Continue. You are on the right path and your mission is noble. There is much work to be done, much more work to be done. The fight has only just begun. Next, we will look at I-ming's Taoist I Ching, which he wrote in 1796 as a Taoist adept. It's quite alchemical in nature. Hexagram 13, our primary hexagram, sameness with people. Sameness with people in the wilderness is developmental. It is beneficial to cross great rivers. It is beneficial for a superior person to be upright. Explanation. Sameness with people means other people and oneself are as one. As for the qualities of the hexagram, above is heaven, strong, and below is fire, luminous. Employing strength with illumination, making illumination effective by strength, being truthful within and adept without, developing oneself and others as well. It is therefore called sameness with people. This hexagram represents mixing in with the ordinary world, concealing one's illumination. Skillfully assimilating to others, it follows on the previous hexagram, tranquility. In tranquility, yin and yang match each other, strength and receptivity are united. When practitioners of Tao reach the point where yin and yang are balanced, strength and receptivity are unified, and the spiritual embryo is formed. Then they can merge with the ordinary world, hiding their illumination, to cultivate advanced practice. But to mix with the ordinary world, concealing one's own light, requires great impartiality and impersonality. This is a matter of being selfless. If there is no self, there are no others. When there is no self or others, the sense of others and self leaves. When the sense of others and self leaves, then others and are oneself, and oneself is identified with others. This is like the skies covering everything, like the sun's shining everywhere. One can thus return others and self to emptiness, being like others in the wilderness, as it were, this assimilation being unfailingly developmental. The wilderness is a vastness where there are no people. Being like people as though in a wilderness means there is no image of self, no image of others, no image of people. If one cannot be the same as other people with the true heart, and can only be the same as them in favorable circumstances, but not in adversity, only in times of ease, but not in danger, then this sameness is not true and sure, and is ultimately not developmental. When the text says, it is beneficial to cross great rivers, it means that if one can go along through situations of danger and difficulty, then where there is no danger or difficulty, wherever one goes, it will be beneficial. Every ordinary person in the world assimilates to others, but most people do so for personal reasons, and do not do it correctly. They assimilate to those they should be the same as, but they also assimilate to those whom they shouldn't be like. This is not the meaning of sameness with people in the wilderness. Therefore, the benefit of crossing great rivers is beneficial insofar as one is upright like a superior person. The superior person assimilates based on correctness, not on sentiment. What is correct is only a matter of what is right and true. Sentiment changes, while truth has no change. If one assimilates based on truth, then there is no sentiment. When there is no sentiment, the ideas of others and self both are transformed. Only truth is to be preserved. Inwardly, one can thereby develop oneself and outwardly develop others. Seeing afar by means of illumination, acting directly by means of strength. Strength and illumination both working, firmness and flexibility balancing each other, inwardly not losing oneself, outwardly not hurting others. Round and bright, clean and bare, one stands in the midst of myriad things without being inhibited by myriad things. One is within yin and yang without being constrained by yin and yang. And also the commentary section of 13. Sameness with others. Heaven above, fire below, heaven with fire, sameness with others. Thus do superior people distinguish things in terms of categories and groups. Sameness with others means being the same as other people. Above is heaven, below is fire. Fire is the sun. The sky covers everything. The sun shines on everything. The sky and the sun are in the same place, impartial and illuminating. This is the image of sameness with others. What superior people see in this is that when practitioners of the Tao deal with people, it is important to be able to be the same as others. Yet it is most important not to assimilate to them arbitrarily. So they distinguish them in terms of categories and groups. Categories and groups are internally similar and united, like different classes of people, each having their own groups. Superior people see each group as a category in which all members are the same. Distinguishing means differentiating. Things are things that are right or wrong, good or bad. Superior people must distinguish things. They dare not arbitrarily consider all categories and groups the same. This is how they model themselves on the impartiality of heaven and distinguish things in emulation of the illumination of the sun. When one is impartial and also lucidly aware, there is no one in the world one cannot be the same as, and there is nothing in the world that is arbitrarily considered the same as something different. This is because superior people assimilate by means of the Tao, not in terms of mentality. They assimilate by means of reason, not in terms of personality. This is what is called harmonizing without being influenced, associating without becoming a partisan. This is how the sky and sun are the same toward things, and this is how superior people are the same with others. And our supporting hexagram, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context, an influence, a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. 42, increase. For increase, it is beneficial to go somewhere. It is beneficial to cross great rivers. Explanation. Increase is adding what is lacking. As for the qualities of the hexagram, above is wind, entering, and below is thunder, active. Acting so as to enter gradually, entering without either rushing or lagging. It is therefore called increase. This hexagram represents using reduction in the midst of increase. It follows on the previous hexagram, liberation. In liberation, the yang energy is active and gets out of danger, gradually growing and maturing, adding good that is lacking. However, to increase good is not possible without reducing what is not good. Increasing good and decreasing what is not good, increasing and increasing again, reducing and reducing again, until there is no more increase or decrease possible. Finally reaching the state of utter good without evil, one is then done. Therefore, it is beneficial to go somewhere. Since beginningless time, people have accumulated faults and defects, and the seeds of habitual compulsion growing deeper as time goes on. Now, if they want to do something of benefit to essence in life, they cannot accomplish this unless they first extract the seeds of these compulsive habits. But the seeds of habitual compulsions cannot be removed all at once. There are processes, procedures. This does not admit falsehood. It requires orderly progress, putting forth effort at every step, increasing the mind of Tao, decreasing the human mentality, increasing sane energy, decreasing aberrated energy. Only when there is such reduction within increase is it possible to succeed, to make it beneficial to go somewhere. The benefit is simply in one's practice producing beneficial phenomena. But to practice what is beneficial, it is important to have a beginning and a conclusion. If there is a beginning but no conclusion, one's acts are still of no benefit. There is no gain but loss. Therefore, the way of gain and beneficial action lies in concentrated will, making thoroughly dedicated effort, made from within difficulty and hardship. Only when one has dissolved the seeds of compulsive habit of time immemorial will one be able to restore one's original being. Therefore, it is also beneficial to cross great rivers. Great rivers are extremely dangerous. There, one's life hangs in the balance. If one can go through extremely dangerous places, then wherever there is no danger, one is at an advantage. According to the qualities of the hexagram, acting so as to progress harmoniously, gradually applying effort, without rushing or lagging, this is the path of increasing and decreasing according to the time. In our supporting hexagram, oh no, we already did that. Now we're going to read our changing lines, which put a pin in the, wait. We need to read the commentary section. I'm all discombobulated. That's a fun word. Disheveled. All right, increase. Wind above, thunder below. Wind and thunder increase. Thus do superior people take to good when they see it, and correct whatever faults they have. Increase is augmentation and enhancement. Above is wind and below is thunder. This is wind and thunder meeting. When thunder rolls, wind rises. The sound of wind enhances the thunder. This is the image of increase. What superior people see in this is that to increase goodness, it is necessary to reduce faults. And to reduce faults, it is necessary to increase goodness. Increase requires reduction. Reduction complements increase. So the increase has no end. Therefore, when they see good, they take to it. And when they have faults, they correct them. When people are first born, they are totally good, without evil. That is, goodness is inherent in people, while faults are originally non-existent in people. It is because they are unaware of good that they have faults. If they take to good when they see it, and continue to move toward goodness until there is nothing they do that is not good, they will end up at ultimate good. If they correct faults they have and keep correcting them until there is nothing faulty in them, they will finally become impeccable. Taking to good means being able to be firm. Correcting faults means being able to be flexible. Firmness must be like the powerful, direct action of thunder. Flexibility must be like the gentle, gradual advance of wind. Being vigorous, one can enter into goodness. Being easygoing, one can be without fault. Firmness and flexibility complement each other. What was there before returns, and what occurred later disappears. The primal is restored, and the acquired dissolves. By this enhancement, one reaches ultimate good with no evil, the stage of complete integration with the celestial design. So the work of taking to good and correcting faults is no small matter. Next, we will look at our changing lines 3 and 4, which put a pin in the map to say you are here, or at least here are some places you may find yourself. They take precedence over all other elements and are the most focused part of the reading. Changing line 3 has the general context in emerging identity, facing a transition, with fear or desire, resolution or indecision. And changing line 4, the capacity for action, asking how the work can be done. Changing line 3 of hexagram 13, sameness with people. Subduing fighters in the bush, climbing up a high hill, even in 3 years there will be no flourishing. Explanation. When one is too strong and bright and honors and aggrandizes oneself, sometimes assimilation to others is forced and unnatural. This is likened to subduing fighters in the bush and climbing up a high hill. Sameness on a high hill is being able to be the same as those who accord with oneself, but unable to be the same as those opposite to oneself. Such people cannot make the work of being the same as other people thrive even after a long period of 3 years. This is sameness with adamant forcefulness. In changing line 4, mounting the wall, unable to attack. This is auspicious. Explanation. Mounting obstinacy with obstinacy. Others powerful and oneself strong. Others and oneself cannot be of the same mind. This is likened to mounting the wall yet being unable to attack. However, if one is firm and yet able to be flexible, and does not try to force the issue when unable to assimilate, this too is an auspicious way of sameness with others. This is sameness with firmness and ability to be flexible. Next, we'll look at James de Corn's Gnostic Book of Changes, which is a synthesis of several I Ching commentaries in one helpful place. I've left links to it in the description box below. He is a practitioner of the Tao himself and quotes people like Carl Jung, things like the Kabbalah, and oh my God, I gotta do something here. Give me a second. We got a new Wi-Fi, and its name is Sanderson after our cat. Yay. Logged into Sanderson. Come on, Sanders. Give it to me. There we are. All right. Hexagram 13, union of forces is what he calls it. Other titles might be fellowship with men, the symbol of companionship, lovers, beloved friends, like-minded persons, concording people, gathering men, sameness with people, universal brotherhood, fellowship, community, united, human association, union of men, integration of forces, minor synthesis, cliques, concordance, to be in accord with, confirmation, judgment, leg. Union of forces appears in the remote districts of the country, indicating progress and success. It will be advantageous to cross the great stream. It will be advantageous to maintain the firm correctness of the superior man. Blowfold, lovers, friends, in the open, success. It is advantageous to cross the great river or sea, to make any kind of journey. The superior man will benefit if he does not slacken his righteous persistence. Lu, fellowship of men in the open, countryside, success. It benefits one to cross the great water. It benefits the superior man to continue his task. Ritsuma/Karcher, concording people, tending towards the countryside, growing, harvesting, wading the great river, harvesting, Chunsu, trial. This hexagram describes your situation in terms of sharing a goal with others. It emphasizes that finding ways to cooperate with and harmonize people's efforts is the adequate way to handle it. The image, leg. The images of heaven and fire form union of forces. The superior man, in accordance with this, distinguishes things according to their kinds and classes. Blowfold. This hexagram symbolizes heaven, the sun, and fire, representing a pair of lovers. The superior man treats everything in a manner proper to his kind. An analogy based on the component trigrams between the sun and fire, which to some extent are of a kind. Commentary, Confucius/Leg. In union of forces, the magnetic line has the central place of influence and responds to her correlate line in the upper trigram of strength. The hexagram takes its name from the upper trigram of strength, lending its power to the lower trigram of clarity and intelligence. This represents the correct course of the superior man. It is only the superior man who can comprehend and affect the minds of all under the sky. Leg. Union of forces describes a condition which is the opposite of the preceding hexagram of divorcement. What was there distress and obstruction is here a union of forces, but it must be based entirely on the good of the whole, without any taint of selfishness. The dynamic line, correctly in the fifth place, occupies the most important position, and has for his correlate the magnetic second line, also in her correct place. The one female line is naturally sought after by all the male lines. The editors of the Conghasi edition would make the second line respond to all of the lines of the upper trigram as being more agreeable to the idea of union. The upper trigram is that of heaven, the lower is of fire, whose tendency is to mount upwards. This image suggests the fire ascending, blazing to the sky, and uniting with it. All these ideas are in harmony with the notion of union, but it must be free of all factionalism, and this is indicated by its being in the remote districts of the country, where people are unsophisticated and free from the corrupting effects of urban intrigue. Although a union from such motives can cope with the greatest difficulties, yet a word of caution is added. Notes and paraphrases. Judgment. Connections are being made. If you are able to maintain your will, it is advisable to push for a synthesis. The superior man differentiates and prioritizes. He sorts and evaluates his options. This is another image of union, not the supreme union of hexagram number 11, harmony, but a subordinate union of forces within the psyche which builds toward an eventual grand alliance. The component trigrams show the union of strength and clarity, suggesting that a certain level of mental comprehension is involved. To receive the hexagram without changing lines is often a confirmation of your particular thought, saying, in effect, you've made the connection. Comprehension, synthesis, involves making distinctions, analysis, a paradoxical process in which one must divide before one can reunite. This is the solve et quagula of alchemy. Thus, we see the superior man in the image creating categories to bring about union. This is discrimination directed toward reclassification or rectification. For example, a heterogeneous mixture of vegetable and flower seeds is made meaningful when one sorts them into their proper categories. The disparate elements then become coherently united. In I Ching terms, each line obtains its proper correlate as in hexagram number 63. A quote from Plotinus in the Enneads. Dialectic alternates between synthesis and analysis until it has gone through the entire domain of the intelligible and has arrived at the principle. Stopping there, for it is only there that it can stop, no longer busying itself with a multitude of objects, since it has arrived at unity, it contemplates. The Chinese name of this hexagram includes the word Zhen, which is apparently a difficult concept since many philosophers have spent a good deal of energy in trying to define it. A quote from Wing Tsit Chan in A Source Book in Chinese Philosophy. Zhen has been variously translated as benevolence, perfect virtue, goodness, human-heartedness, love, altruism, etc. None of these expresses all the meanings of the term. It means a particular virtue, benevolence, and also the general virtue, the basis of all goodness. Neo-Confucianists interpreted it as impartiality, the character of production and reproduction, consciousness, seeds that generate, the will to grow, one who forms one body with heaven and earth, or the character of love and the principle of mind. In modern times, it has even been equated with ether and electricity. Chu Hsi defines Zhen as the character of the mind, psyche, and the principle of love, union. Interpreted in this way, we are enabled to apprehend the essence of the word love, which is union, becoming one with its object. I have chosen the title of Union of Forces to emphasize intrapsychic dynamics which are not immediately obvious in Wilhelm's title of Fellowship with Men. For example, in dealing with questions pertaining to the work, the concept of ego states or subpersonalities is often relevant to the symbolism of this hexagram. A quote from J.G. Watkins in The Therapeutic Self: "The human self has been described here as composed of different ego states separated by boundaries. It has been likened to the structure of political principalities. From clinical observation, we find that ego states can cooperate for mutual well-being, like allied nations against a common enemy. An ego state may become split, like East and West Germany, or fracture into many segments, like the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Ego states may become cognitively dissonant and hostile to each other, like Syria and Israel. In fact, the behavior of ego states within an individual is not unlike that between individuals and between those groups of individuals called countries. Why should the behavior of human stuff not be substantially similar at all levels of its organizations? The evidence of self-division into ego states is significant, and an equally tenable hypothesis might be that the states and boundaries of political entities have been imposed by men on each other because these represent an externalization of the internal divisions in their own selves. This hexagram's shadow side reveals circumstances preventing the union of entities or forces, more than those conditions promoting fruitful affiliation. Note that only the first and fifth lines of the figure depict a positive synthesis. The first one is minor, and in the case of line 5, union is attained only after much struggle. Line 2 reveals a clique or faction situation opposed to the general welfare, and lines 3 and 4 are images of recalcitrant forces unable to either join or attack the alliance. The sixth line depicts a partial union, probably the most common outcome in general experience, which the Confucian commentary nevertheless minimizes. Out of 6 lines, then, only 2 describe anything like complete fellowship. I've received this hexagram without changing lines when the context of the question revealed an incestuous clique-type situation, so not all fellowship or union of forces is necessarily an ideal configuration. Next, we will look at our supporting hexagram, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. 42, increase. Other titles might be the symbol of addition, gain, augmenting, help from above, benefit, advantage, profit, expansion, judgment, leg. Increase denotes advantage in every movement which shall be undertaken. It will be advantageous even to cross the great stream. Blowfold. Gain. It is favorable to have in view some goal or destination and to cross the great water or sea. Lu. Increase. It is of benefit to set forth. It is of benefit to cross the great water. Ritsima/Karcher. Augmenting. Harvesting, possessing directed going, harvesting, wading the great river. This hexagram describes your situation in terms of increase and advance. It emphasizes that expanding the quantity and quality of your involvement is the adequate way to handle it. To be in accord with the time, you are told to augment. The image, leg, wind over thunder, the image of increase. When the superior man perceives good, he moves toward it. When he perceives his faults, he eliminates them. Commentary, Confucius/Leg. Increase shows the upper trigram brilliantly decreased to augment the lower. What descends from above reaches to all below, and the satisfaction of the people is without limit. Advantage in movement is shown in the blessings dispensed by the second and fifth lines from their correct positions. The action of wood shows that it is advantageous to cross the great stream. Through the trigrams of movement and humility, there is unlimited daily advancement. Heaven dispenses and earth produces, and all proceeds according to the requirements of the time. Leg. Increase has the opposite meaning to hexagram number 41, compensating sacrifice or decrease. What King Wen had in mind was a ruler or a government operating to dispense benefits to the people and increase their resources. The two important lines in the figure are the correlates 2 and 5. The general auspice of the hexagram is one of being successful in one's enterprises and of overcoming the greatest difficulties. The formation of the trigrams here is the reverse of that in the preceding hexagram. The people are full of pleasure in the labors of the ruler for their good. The action of wood in the Confucian commentary refers to the upper trigram, which is the symbol of wind and wood. From wood, boats are made, on which the great stream may be crossed. In 3 hexagrams, this, 59 and 61, in which this is the upper trigram, we find mention made of crossing the great stream. In the image, thunder and wind are seen to increase one another, and their combination gives the idea of increase. Notes and paraphrases. Judgment. Take advantage of your opportunities. The superior man recognizes his duty and rectifies his mistakes, or accentuate the positive, eliminate the negative. If the ego's sacrifices for the good of the work are described in the previous hexagram, here we see the inverse image of that figure in which it is the self who bestows its blessings upon the psyche. The one implies the other. In the words of an old blues lyric, if you don't put something in, you can't get nothing out. The 41st and 42nd hexagrams are intimately related and in their interaction portray the active progress of the work. To paraphrase the last sentence of the Confucian commentary, the self dispenses and the ego produces, and all proceeds according to the requirements of the time. A quote from Maimonides, Maimonides, 8 chapters. If a man continually weighs his actions and aims at the mean, he is in the highest of human ranks. In that way, he will come close to God and will attain what belongs to him. This is the most perfect of the ways of worship. Next, we will look at our changing lines, which put a pin in the map to say you are here, or at least here are some places you may find yourself. They take precedence over all other elements and are the most focused part of the reading. Changing line 3 has the general context: an emerging identity, facing a transition with fear or desire, resolution or indecision. And changing line 4, the capacity for action, asking how the work can be done. Changing line 3 of hexagram 13, union of forces or sameness with people. Line 3, leg. The third line dynamic shows its subject with his arms hidden in the thick grass and at the top of a high mound, but for 3 years he makes no demonstration. Wilhelm/Baines, he hides weapons in the thicket. He climbs the high hill in front of it. For 3 years he does not rise up. Blofeld, concealing his weapons in the bushes, he climbs his high hill. For 3 years he enjoys no happiness. His cowardice was so great that he dared not seek home, wife, or children for 3 years. The implication is that boldness at all costs is required. Wu, he conceals weapons in bushes. He moves up to high mounds. He makes no headway in 3 years. He is planning to overwhelm by force those with whom he disagrees, but he is alone and cannot make a breakthrough. Commentary, Confucius/Leg, he hides arms in the thick grass because of the strength of his opponent. For 3 years he makes no demonstration. How can he do anything? Wilhelm/Baines, because he had a hard man as opponent, how could it be done? Blofeld, he conceals his weapons because the enemy is strong. But 3 years without joy. Who would follow such a course? Ritzema/Karcher, antagonistic solid indeed, quieting movement indeed. Cleary 2, 3 years without flourishing is calm activity. Wu, he should be contented with his lot. Leg, line 3 is dynamic in a dynamic place, but without a proper correlate in line 6. This makes him anxious to unite with line 2, but 2 is devoted to her proper correlate in line 5, of whose strength line 3 is afraid. Therefore he takes the measures described, but his abstaining so long from action will save him from misfortune. Notes and paraphrases. Sue. Mistrust ensues. The man conceals his weapons, plans an ambush, but does not come forth. Wing. There is a possibility that those involved in the situation have selfish interests and divergent goals. This is unfortunate, because the ensuing mistrust of each for the other will grind events to a halt. Unless goals are realigned, no progress can be made, and nothing will come of the situation. Editor. Wilhelm remarks here that the situation depicts mistrust. Union is blocked by some divisive element such as doubt or cynicism. Perhaps a pessimistic attitude is impeding the flow of events. Although the line is not necessarily always completely negative, note the lack of an appended value judgment. The image depicts latent forces of an inferior sort blocking the natural flow of energy or growth. If this is the only changing line, we receive hexagram number 25, innocence, with a corresponding line depicting undeserved misfortune. Psychologically interpreted, unconscious complexes could threaten the work by refusing to integrate. It is possible that this transcends the ego's conscious awareness. Blofeld's note does not agree with the general sense of the line and may be considered anomalous. A quote from E.C. Whitmont in The Symbolic Quest. Unfortunately, repression does not eliminate the qualities or drives or keep them from functioning. It merely removes them from ego awareness. They continue as complexes. By being removed from view, they are also removed from supervision and can thereby continue their existence unchecked and in a disruptive way. James de Corn breaks changing line 3 down into 3 succinct possible definitions, A, B, and C. A divisive element within the situation is unable to manifest or is preventing growth. B, a hidden threat bides its time. Or C, something is blocked. And changing line 4. Leg, the fourth line dynamic shows its subject mounted on the city wall, but he does not proceed to make the attack. He contemplates. There will be good fortune. Wilhelm/Baines, he climbs up on his wall. He cannot attack. Good fortune. Blofeld, he climbs his battlemented wall, for he is unable to attack. Good fortune. At first sight, this case looks rather like that indicated by the third line, but here, cowardice and concealment are replaced by courage, modified by common sense, and a desire to do his duty as best he can. Cleary 2, he mounts the wall but does not succeed in the attack. This is lucky. Wu, he ascends to the top of his fortress and is convinced that the offensive will fail. This will be auspicious. He ascends to a good vantage point to survey his surroundings and realizes his blunder. He is quick to correct himself. Reasoning wins over force. Commentary. Confucius/Leg. He is mounted on the city wall, but he yields to the right and doesn't make the attack he contemplated. He recognizes the strait he is in and will return to the rule of law. Wilhelm/Baines. The situation means that he can do nothing. His good fortune consists in the fact that he gets into trouble and therefore returns to lawful ways. Blofeld. Being unable to worst the enemy, he settles down on a fortified wall. His good fortune consists in being able to retain his sense of what is right, even when encountering difficulty. Ritzinger/Karcher. Righteously, nothing controlling indeed, one's significance, by consequence confining, and also reversing, by consequence indeed. Cleary 2, the luck is that he will return to order when he reaches the impasse. Wu, morally he cannot succeed. He realizes his predicament and reverses his action, or his course rather. Leg, line 4 is dynamic but in a magnetic place, which weakens his position. He would like to make an attempt on line 2, but is afraid to do so. Stress should be laid on the idea of yielding to the right. Notes and paraphrases. Sue. The man mounts his city wall, but is afraid to embark on aggression. The antagonists consider the difficulties and yield to right and law. Reconciliation is imminent. Wing. Your obsession with the attainment of your personal goals will ultimately cut you off from others. The more you pursue your dream, the farther you drift from your community. In time, your loneliness will bring you to your senses. Good fortune. Editor. Psychologically interpreted, a city can symbolize a focus of energy, perhaps a belief complex, within which its components live in fellowship. The city walls represent the boundaries defining this belief system. Seen from the outside, the wall is the separation between one condition and another. Seen from the inside, it provides both definition and sanctuary for its inhabitants. Regarded this way, the differences between lines 3 and 4 can be seen as the differences between the repression and sublimation of a complex. At any rate, this line depicts a favorable impasse or restraint of power in the situation at hand. A quote from E.C. Whitmont in The Symbolic Quest. Even though we are not responsible for the way we are and feel, we have to take responsibility for the way we act. Therefore, we have to learn to discipline ourselves. And discipline rests on the ability to act in a manner that is contrary to our feelings when necessary. This is an eminently human prerogative as well as a necessity. James DeCorn breaks changing line 4 down into 3 possible succinct definitions, A, B, and C. A, an impasse prevents an unfortunate action. B, awareness of an impasse is the first condition necessary for its resolution. And C, straddling the fence and able to see both sides of the issue, one is prevented from joining either faction. I had somebody comment about a new commentary, new to me, that we'll also read from. The I Ching, or Book of Changes, A Guide to Life's Turning Points by Browne Walker. Hexagram 13, Fellowship with Others. In fellowship with others, embody the principles of the sage. This hexagram addresses the proper basis for relationships with others. It generally comes as a sign that some kind of self-correction is in order in this area. Proper relationships, whether in love, work, family, or friendship, must be founded on and conducted under proper principles in order to succeed. Our model for how to behave with others is the sage. In relating, we are obligated to practice kindness, humility, correctness, equanimity, and openness. Wherever we depart from these, we lose the aid of the higher power and risk an encounter with misfortune. The fundamental rule of the I Ching for the conduct of relationships is that they take place in the open. This means that every facet of a relationship should be seen as fair and correct by everyone concerned, not just yourself. It also means that it is improper to enter into or continue in relationships with unspoken reservations or hidden intentions. Exceptional things can be accomplished by those who come together correctly in fellowship, now under the guidance of an enlightened leader or leaders. Seek that role by patterning yourself after the sage. Meet others halfway in a spirit of sincerity and receptivity. Give trust where it is due. Where it is not, do not resort to harshness. Reserve and reticence are adequate measures. Avoid the formation of factions and cliques, and correct your errors in relationships as soon as you become aware of them. In this way, you can accomplish magnificent deeds now. Pretty good. I like ending with this one. And then Hexagram 42, our supporting hexagram, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context and influence, a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all. Increase. Powerful improvements are underway. The coming of the hexagram E signifies a period of increase when the power of heaven descends to surround and invigorate our lives. Like all phases, this too will come to an end, but if we make hay while the sun shines, tremendous progress can be made at this time. It is in the nature of human beings to relax and become careless when things begin to go well. The I Ching teaches us that we should not do this if we desire the fullest blessings of the beneficial hour. Indeed, our rewards are multiplied if we increase our conscientiousness in auspicious times rather than decrease it. There are two ways in which the I Ching especially encourages us to do this. Our first task is to make sacrifices for others. In all of your interactions now, embody generosity in thought and action. Forgive what is inferior in others and seek out the good. By giving encouraging and assisting, you will draw the superior person in everyone into devoted action. Your second task in this time of increase is to go on strengthening yourself, as thunder and wind strengthen each other. This means that if you see something good in another, you imitate it, and when you discover something inferior in yourself, you eliminate it. These simple practices, if continued conscientiously over time, will improve your character and fortunes immeasurably. Through service and self-improvement, you assure yourself of great progress in the days ahead. And next we'll look at our changing lines 3 and 4, which put a pin in the map to say you are here, or at least here are some places you may find yourself. They take precedence over all other elements and are the most focused part of the reading. Changing line 3 has the general context: an emerging identity facing a transition with fear or desire, resolution or indecision. And changing line 4, the capacity for action, asking how the work can be done. Hexagram 13, changing line 3. Mistrust and secrets only lead to more mistrust and secrets. No good comes of this. Turn matters over to the sage and follow his guidance. And changing line 4. Do not continue to fight and quarrel. It is better to disengage and separate. Perseverance in proper principles brings success in spite of all other influences. Nice. Next, we will get our secret hexagram by looking at the second, third, and fourth lines of our primary hexagram and the third, fourth, and fifth lines of our supporting hexagram. So the bottom trigram of our secret hexagram will be broken, solid, solid. The top trigram will be broken, broken, solid. So broken, solid, solid, and then broken, broken, solid. So Gen Mountain above, Xun Winderwood. Is hexagram 18. Which James DeCorn, nope. I-ming, rather, calls degeneration. And the secret hexagram is the hidden influence behind the situation, correcting degeneration by abandoning the false and returning to the true. I think we'll read from Benabel Wen and Brian Browne Walker for this. Okay. So The hidden influence behind the situation, degeneration. 18. Or decay is what she calls it. Goo, the oracle. An infestation results in the decay of matter. Dogma causes degeneration. There has been spoilage and degeneration, so it is critical to take action immediately. Great obstacles to come, but take bold action to go out and confront those obstacles before they come for you. Those who can survive this stage come through the other side emanating with greatness, sign of great power after the rebirth. Worms on decaying matter, pestilent. The mountain wind spreads the worms on decaying matter. There has been spoilage and the food in the bowl decays, sprouting worms. But there is still the chance to make reparations for the spoilage. A necessary difficult part in the cycle of life, the sage uplifts the people by teaching them the ways of virtue. Such teachings reverse the natural course of decay and remove the stagnation. The great sage is one who motivates the people like the wind that carries seeds up the mountain. Auspicious to cross the great stream. You have been in a state of stagnation for a while, and as a result, there is degeneration and you are headed toward a stage of decay. It is critical to take action immediately to prevent further atrophy. Jia, this ideogram, is one of the 10 heavenly stems, yang in its qi nature, associated with the Wu Jing phase, wood, the eastern direction, the spring season, and the planet Jupiter. During the Shang dynasty, it corresponded with one of the 10 days of the week. You will need 3 days before the critical point and 3 days after for the full endeavor to be a success. There must be adequate preparation before that critical point, and then afterward, adequate reflection. The indication of 3 days prior to a critical point and 3 days after suggests the need for planning and a well-defined exit strategy. For matters relating to spell crafting and ritual work, Hexagram 18 indicates that such work is to be done between the hours of 11 p.m. and 3 a.m. The English translation of Hexagram 18's title bellies its favorable nature, or belies, I don't know how to say that. This is a hexagram of great power. After all, the final message is that it's advantageous to cross the great stream. And Hexagram 18 in Browne Walker. What the heck did I put it? Oh, apparently I dropped you. Sorry. No disrespect. Hexagram 18, secret hexagram, which is the hidden influence behind the situation. Jeez. Coup. Work on what has been spoiled, decay. A challenge to improvement. That which has been spoiled through neglect can be rejuvenated through effort. Receiving this hexagram is a sign that there is a defect in the attitude of oneself, another, or one's society that should be corrected. Your task now is to bring conscientiousness, thought, and action to an area where stagnation has set in. Perhaps you engage in continual doubt about the wisdom of behaving according to proper principles. Perhaps you indulge in greed or vengeful thinking or a harsh manner. In any case, the time has come to root out the decay. The I Ching counsels us to work energetically at this task, but only after proper deliberation. We are advised to spend 3 full days in understanding the defect, another day in resolving sincerely to remove it, and then 3 more days watching carefully to ensure that it does not return. This steady application of attention to the matter is the wind that carries away stagnation and brings new life in its place. It is likely that the problem is an old one, and equally likely that no solution will be immediately evident. We are cautioned not to abandon the cause. Only perseverance will reveal the great reward that is concealed within the problem. Whether the fault lies in yourself, another, or your community, the requirement is the same. Watch closely while remaining quiet, innocent, and sincere. After you have clearly identified the problem, act unswervingly to eliminate it without abandoning gentleness and inner balance in the process. When this course is completed, good fortune will be met. All right. Now we will sum things up while getting a randomly card-drawn chapter from the Tao Te Ching. We got as our primary hexagram 13, sameness with people, which in Lu I-ming's Taoist I Ching, he was talking about the idea that the sun rising up in the sky shines down on everything, and below is fire, above is Qian heaven, and in a similar way they have similarities. The sun is fire, fire is fire, so they're similar. We're to look at different groups of people as being, specific in their groups, and we're to look and see how they are different from each other and how they're all the same. It's like the idea of being around a fire, and there's all these clans sitting around this fire, and you're looking and seeing, man, we're all people, but also there's a lot of differences between the different groups. And so there's sort of like a categorization, but also the idea of sameness with people. Also, Lu I-ming talked about the idea that if there are no others, if there's no self, then there's no others. So not differentiating in the way that we differentiate ourselves from others. It's the idea that we all, if self doesn't arise, then others don't arise. There's only the idea of others if there's an idea that I am separate from others. And yet at the same time, we are to see kind of like where things are, where they belong, how they function, and how those differentiate from like a higher perspective. Holy smokes. Wait a second, holy cow. Yikes. My wife's got it. And our supporting hexagram, which puts our primary hexagram in a broader context, an influence, a direction of travel, an underlying issue that has to do with you and your relationship to it all, is 42, increase. The wind is beneath thunder, or Zen thunder is actually beneath wind, Xun, wind or wood. And wind increases the sound of thunder. When wind arises and thunder's resounding, the wind carries that sound, so it increases that. And it's a time where previously in an earlier hexagram, there was the idea of ourselves, our small lowercase self, sacrificing for the higher case self, the self. And in this hexagram, it's the self sort of rewarding the ego self in a way. Our changing lines 3 and 4. 3 had somebody hiding weapons within a bush. I'm almost done, babe, I love you. And he's getting ready to attack, but he waits for 3 years and doesn't do so. And he basically is trying to find a good time, but he alone is against a larger group, it sounds like. And so there isn't really a good time. And so he's just sitting and waiting. And then changing line 4, this person scales the wall and gets a higher vantage point and decides after doing so not to attack. So how James de Corn talked about things being like ego complexes in our psyche. It's like the idea that in both 3 and 4, 2 and 5 were the only lines that showed an integration of sorts, and with both 3 and 4 there's no integration. They remain disparate. And so sameness with people, even though the idea is sameness with people with the name of it, in the actual changing lines, only 2 of them show any kind of synthesis between groups. And the secret hexagram, which is the hidden influence behind the situation, is 18, degeneration. And there's wind beneath a mountain, and it stirs up all this decay. Basically, it's got like maybe moist wind or something going up this hillside and causing decay. And what we're to do in those cases is see what needs to be done 3 days before the seed day, and then complete 3 days after the seed day. So it's like this idea of trying to figure out what action needs to be taken to correct something that likely has been a problem for some time. This is likely something that's been kind of like a hidden issue in either society or ourselves or in our group that's maybe we haven't seen before. And so in dealing with it, there has to be some preparation, and then the day that seed day arrives, that action needs to be taken, and then we need to see how it's progressing 3 days after that action is taken, and to see if it likely is resolving. And it talked about that we may not readily see a very obvious change, but that doesn't necessarily mean that a change isn't taking place. Trying to see if I should read from anything. One thing this makes me think of is just the political situation in the world, and how ultimately we all recognize that we are one, that we're one humanity, that we all are enfolded into the universe. We're just an appearing of the universe in this specific body. And yet there can be a lot that separates us still. You can see from that higher vantage point, like from above, looking down and seeing all the different groups, but being here on the ground level, sometimes it's difficult. And sometimes we even have our own issues, like in the changing lines, where we might have a bone to pick with another group and want to make some sort of attack, or maybe even it might even be for the betterment of everyone. But in order to affect good change, we need to evaluate what our motives are, and if there is something that is keeping us from the rest, that is some sort of personal desire for some kind of fruitful benefit in the end of what our goal is. If that's keeping us from the rest of humanity, in a sense, then to a degree we need to negotiate that a little bit for the goal of integration. And yet at the same time, like I-ming talked about, we're not to assimilate with others in every single respect. We should assimilate with those that we should assimilate with, in the sense of, them having ways that we aspire to, but not so much assimilate with those that we don't, in every respect. And the decay, it's difficult to get rid of ingrained issues within society, within ourselves, within our communities, if we have kind of this idea that we need to have some reward in our lives. Sometimes we need to set aside some of the things that propel us forward, like a carrot on a stick forever, that just lead everybody off in separate directions. If we can come up with a common goal, then maybe we might not get the highest ideal of the thing that we're searching for, but if everybody is able to get what they're searching for in various ways, through some sort of like a cooperation, or what do they call that? I've forgotten. It'll come to me. What is it when you make an agreement with somebody where nobody gets everything they want, but everybody wins? It's like a win-win-win. You negotiate, I suppose. That's not the word, but anyway. So if we can see what the actual decay is and what the problems are, rotting society and our own psyches from underneath, if we see it for what it is, we might be able to redirect how we look at it a little bit, not attack it, because attacking it, James DeCorn was talking about, it just goes underground, and then the effects of it are stealthy and come out in areas that kind of like undermine us. So if we can see it for what it is truthfully, and also see, even though it might be negative mostly, it might even look positive to us, but when compared to the idea of everybody working together and being in harmony, maybe it clashes a bit. If we can see what the internal drive is, another thing James DeCorn talked about is that underneath everything, the inherent human drive is a good one, but sometimes the way it expresses itself is negative. So if we can detect what that underlying drive is and maybe redirect it, they had a lot of success in this hypnotherapy where someone would speak to a person's leg. This person, for instance, in this story, was driving and their leg would stop working. It wouldn't want to push the gas or the brake or whatever, and it would just act out in weird ways. Sometimes it would act out when they were about to go over this bridge every time. And so what the therapist did was they hypnotized the person and spoke directly to their leg, and they asked it some questions and said, well, shake if this is true. Are you trying to protect this person? And it would shake. And then, well, is this the healthiest way to go about doing that? And is there a way that you can keep this person safe while at the same time being able to cross this bridge when you're driving? And they were able to come up with a way that this internal thing that was protecting the person could be refocused in a new area that actually worked together for the whole a lot better and allowed everything to function better. So it also talked about the idea of following the sage. So the idea of the ideal person, or the person that always does, what the sage would do in any given instance, that we are to look to that and follow that ideal. And in kind of this convoluted reading, with a lot of interesting things going on and a lot of potential problems and a lot of potential things that keep us from people in harmony or sameness with people. Maybe dealing with the decay and getting to those underlying issues that are the hidden influence behind the situation might be the way of going about it. And that idea of degeneration in 18, it talked about 3 days before the seed day and 3 days after the seed day, that we really, really look into this and come up with some sort of a plan. And then once we know what to do, we act on that. And then we really, really look and see if it's taking effect in our lives, in our inner worlds and in our outer worlds. And maybe it's subtle and gradual, but like the wind, something can be subtle and gradual, but far-reaching and have a deep influence. And maybe it takes a certain amount of time, but I would suggest that we find the sameness in people that we all share together, more so than climbing up walls and trying to attack and hiding weapons inside the bush. We'll read from 68 from the Tao Te Ching. Wrap this puppy up. Benjamin Hoff, The Eternal Tao Te Ching, we'll read from first. I think this is the first time I haven't read from something in the Summation. And that was a lot. All right, 68, not contending. A skilled manager of men is not warlike. A skilled fighter is not angry. One who is skilled at overcoming opposition does not become entangled with it. One who is skilled at utilizing others behaves as their inferior. Those principles are referred to as the virtue of not contending. Making use of the strengths of others and matching heaven, they are the highest achievements of the ancients. Next, we'll read from Jia Fu Fang and Jane English. A good soldier is not violent. A good fighter is not angry. A good winner is not vengeful. A good employer is humble. This is known as the virtue of not striving. This is known as ability to deal with people. This, since ancient times, has been known as the ultimate unity with heaven. And one more. Nothingness and Zero, a postmodern approach to Lao Tzu's Tao Te Ching, by Jeremy M. Miller. Shout out to Core of Black Raven Metaphysics for turning me on to this. 68. Goodness. In a different age, that of goodness, of gold, only humility ruled,